Other farmers also money na acquired by the back Ghanatube. So money say Ghanatube the information in yan to for one na say. Entam temana ke say or shield na say the bremu na Ghana for most money so no mahwe no tue me hu ade e koso e wo man Ghana ani wiase fa na nyina do phone breaking news ke say na babetodwa ke say minority phone no many abred din then e koso omo say nurses for na omo ye demonstration na ade nyina na ye see omo salary ni entue omo nyina no ye see NPP for making provisions for nurses for we nyina into NDC focus, especially the health minister. I kwabna mitan kado. So kase sikebi eni ho dia and your trantropan kontompo pan no kache Ghana for sika wo pan NDP for no make enough provisions. The masanet is for when you know and sign on moko. It is NDC for Ababet National Mossi sikebi eni ho dia and no trantropan minority for and many are breeding din chese. Omode press conference tintin kese pandia ba disputed the fact say nurses for no omunye sika enfo omo afianso omode yes a petition be ko parliament no ma pass and send dabi say long process the dabi enya ade enya no kre yes sika wo ho NPP for jasika ma NDC for so mo fintu and nurses for nyina kodofo mumanko ne ekotie sa heated argument we ekoso between the minority and the majority number this year e Ghanatube so.
This afternoon, the minority in Parliament are kicking against assertions they are responsible for the high numbers of unemployed graduate nurses in the country. Ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament, Dr. Nana Ayuefriye, has criticized the government for failing to pay some health workers for 10 months. He says the past government secured financial clearance for 15,200 nurses and midwives last year, with about 8,000 of them who were employed. The latest follows a news conference by the Health Minister, Kwabena Kanda, yesterday, who says the current administration is working to right the wrongs by the previous administration in the health sector.
In January 2025, when we took office as government, in the Ministry of Health, we inherited a situation where about 13,500 nurses and midwives had been recruited and posted without financial clearance, without any provision to pay them. In fact, the financial clearance with respect to the 13,500 nurses and midwives expired on 31st December 2024. What it means is that when a financial clearance is issued, you must necessarily migrate the health professionals onto the payroll before the expiration of the clearance or the financial clearance. So, if it expires, what it means is that there is no financial provision for these people. This is a fact. And so we had two options as government: whether to let all the 13,500 nurses and midwives go home, and the second option was to allow them to continue to work whilst we look at how we can get money to pay them.
Well, that's the health minister, and comments like these is what is drawing the criticism from the minority this afternoon. Let's get into Parliament right now, where my colleague Christian Yali has a bit more in terms of the details for us this afternoon. Christian, what more have the minority been saying in reacting to the commentary yesterday by the minister?
Exactly. So this is a financial clearance which is dated 17th July 2024, and on it says that financial clearance is granted to about 15,200 nurses and midwives. Now, when you read it carefully, it even mentions that the effective date of this appointment should not be earlier than 1st September 2024. The minority is saying that, see, the past government was able to secure this clearance for this amount or number of health professionals. Now, the understanding we have is that about 8,000 of them were employed by Christian health associations as well as even some of the teaching hospitals. So you have about the rest who are more or less with Ghana Health Service, whose appointment delayed or whose payment have delayed for about 10 months. The minority's ranking member on the health committee, Dr. Nana Ufriye, makes a case that up to now there are funds available to be paid to these health professionals, and it is a bit disingenuous on the part of the health minister to make a case that they now need a clearance or an approval from cabinet to be able to pay these health officials. Now, the other factor of it is that this clearance, which was secured last year for these health professionals, expires or expired on 31st December 2024 and couldn't be used thereafter. But the case of the minority members is that government on any day is or should be able to extend such clearance to the following year, which means that they should be able to factor it or make provisions as such in the ensuing year's budget. And so if government of the day fail to do so, they shouldn't make it seem as though the past government could not secure a clearance for these health professionals. We can take a listen to what Dr. Nana Ufriye has been saying.
This financial clearance, which was issued on the 17th of July, took effect immediately. The agencies that recruited, and this was the 7,000 or the 8,000 government keeps saying that were cleared financially.
Yes, so finally.
Now what happened was this. The Ministry of Health, which is responsible for the teaching hospitals, recruited theirs. So on the same financial clearance, last year, they recruited theirs and they were paid 5 months. So all those who the ministry recruited with regards to this clearance had their 5 months salaries from July, August, September, October. Now the difference is that the ministry was able to do its validations and they did it spot on. However, they also did that recruitment before 31st December. Now, this clearance expired on the 31st December in item 7. As you read, it said, please note that this financial clearance expires on the 31st of December 2024 and cannot be used thereafter. Now, in normal public administration and civil service of this country, financial clearances expire. Even under this government, they will have financial clearances expire and they will go for extension. It is a normal practice in the system. It's no news, but you could only use it when you go for an extension for the Ministry of Finance. So why didn't government see the need? Money was allocated for 15,000. You came in 7,000 or almost 8,000 had started. The remaining were employed by Ghana Health Service, albeit they were late, but they were at post. You didn't see the need to tell the institutions to reject them. Neither did the institutions write to you to reject them. What it meant was that they filled the gap and they were needed to be at post. So the institution used them. Except for political reasons. They did not extend this for political reasons. And then 10 months down, they faced an embarrassment where the students or the staff went on a public agitation, demonstration, to draw your mind to this clearance and the need for extension. Embarrassing enough, you are saying that you've taken it to cabinet for an approval. What sort of cabinet do you have to take for an approval when you have a clearance already?
And that's how you were free. Christian, let me just come back to you on whether or not they are making some demands of the government in addressing this particular challenge.
The minority is saying that, see, they have been very reasonable over the period and seen to it that they would extend a goodwill, not to even the government of the day, but to the ordinary Ghanaian citizens who need healthcare facilities or services for their daily living. But they just realize that government is, in a way, making the whole situation political, for which reason they have seen the need to respond to this. They are saying that simply there are funds available, government has no excuse, the health minister should stop throwing dust in the eyes of people and pay the health workers now. That is a simple demand that they are making.
You're throwing dust in the eyes of the people. So government created a mess. And they've seen 10 months is caught up on them and they are fixing it. And that's when you take political decisions. You see, the minority, we are a reasonable minority. If you remember when the nurses went on strike, the leader is here. On the guidance of the leadership and the committee, we resolved that it was too early for us to support a cause, and maybe they may have to be reasonable to government. And that was because government is continuum. Regardless of the clearance they had, all this payment dates was approved in the last year. Understand government a bit and then be merciful. Go back to work and negotiate with government. The minority was so reasonable. And then the nurses saw the need to go back to work. So this is a reasonable minority. We've given you the opportunity as a government to find your feet in the first year as much as you can. And we have become so not too political with health. But you are dragging us in. It's the same thing that you did. You were so political. In 2020, the nurses went on strike for 3 weeks. Then in opposition, the NDC supported them that you should stay in opposition. They should learn from the minority. Our position in this year has been that it is too early. So we extended a goodwill, not because of the NDC government, but for the Ghanaian, whose life will be lost. And when the nurses are fixed, at the end of the day, what happened to the life that is lost? That's how reasonable that we have been. We cannot continue to be reasonable when you take the youth of this country for granted. The youth of this country matter, Ghanaians matter, nurses matter, and midwives also matter. It appears that being reasonable to them over the period, they are taking them for granted. And that is why we are trying to come in to get the public to know that there is no need for cabinet to approve anything again. There's no need. This is a clearance. Government should come and tell us that there was no clearance. There was, it expired. And they should tell us if indeed in public administration there has not been clearance which had expired and has been extended. It's no news in this country or any other country. It's no news. They lacked their will and they were too political in their decision. So government created a mess. They have to fix it and fix it now. They should pay them now because the money was allocated. They should pay them now.
Asana Ayuefri, Dr. Nana Ayuefri, he's the chair of, ranking on the Health Committee of Parliament. He used to be the chair of the Health Committee, mixing it up a bit because of changing positions in terms of majority, minority. But Christian is my colleague in Parliament as well. He brought us details as to the development. But let's do politics now, Kemini.
Absolutely. Now, the chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiedu-Nketia, has once again defended his decision.
Other four when a breaking news have been told you to say minority for no NHS or many bread and then almost say Sika woho nurses for na NDC form beso beti omokano Sika woho almost say clearance no expire 31st December 2024 but abaino I was saying commodity extension and more than community omoka see I no say and affiance of medical cabinet na we and sana yes dabi a politics and no more year for the past 10 months affiance and modi case no echo cabinet no more and sana mutual nurses for no country for the past 10 months no nurses for into omoka and a minority for na babo until no say no NDC for a pure politics no more for Sika wo into really the Sika no mo pintu a nurses for no for we and a breaking news about to jam so beginning na bro e Ghanatube mo fi say mobile like no subscribe no share no hit notification bell so man say the be a bring a bibia drop content say ya wo una me no kasa no wonya ne tempa no ahwe with mo for aha and I made nsem nyina be see Ghanatube so makram nyina madam nyina celebrate.